Okay, welcome. Hello, everybody that's out there. I want to go ahead and thank everybody who's watching live discussions with Dr. D. Of course, I'm D. And today I have a very, very special guest. I'm super excited that I have an opportunity to travel to the State House, Columbia, South Carolina, and meet with Representative Kambrell Garvin. He is the House Representative for District 77 here in Columbia, South Carolina. Kambrell, can you tell the people a little bit about like who you are, where you're from, and how did you get involved with politics?
Certainly. Well, Dr. D, first of all, allow me to say thank you for coming in on this morning and having this conversation. Born and raised right here in Columbia.
Okay.
I'm the proud product of the Richland One Public Schools.
Okay.
I actually graduated from AC Florida in 2009, and so we're getting ready to celebrate our 10-year reunion. And
Awesome.
time truly does fly once you graduate. I really got started locally here in the community through the local NAACP.
Oh, wow.
Started out as an 11 or 12-year-old working and registering voters and talking to folks, going door to door in my community, and just really trying to get folks involved in the process. After high school, I went on to attend Winthrop University,
Okay.
and I took those same organizing skills that I gathered during my time at the NAACP, and I became the student government president. And during the 2012 election cycle, led efforts that registered over 1,000 voters.
Wow.
After college, I decided I was faced with a dilemma, and that dilemma was: do I put my words where do I put my actions where my words have been? And what I mean by that is, as a member of the NAACP, I talked about issues of education,
Okay.
inequality in our state,
Okay.
and how how there are two, there are rural schools that are really struggling in
Right.
our state. And so I decided to join a program called Teach for America.
Oh, yeah.
And Are you familiar with Teach
Yeah.
for America? And so Teach for America sent me down to Colleton County in Walterboro, where I spent 3 years as a public school teacher.
Okay.
I was 21 years old, didn't know a whole lot, but I was truly fortunate that community opened their doors to me. They gave me an opportunity to really soar as a sixth grade science teacher. I planned the first sixth grade overnight field trip to Berry Island. When I was here in Richland One, my middle school experience included a trip like that, and I said, well, my kids here, also deserve something similar as well. I started sixth grade overnight science fair, so just really trying to teach my students and show my students that it doesn't matter where you start, but it matters where you end.
That's
in
good.
addition to that, oftentimes folks think that their zip code will dictate their outcome, and I'm a huge proponent that that's not the case. I see it even today in my district, in our 29223 zip code, folks oftentimes, say negative things about that zip code, but there are so many positive things happening. Even when I talk to students here in Richland 1 and Richland 2, I tell them it doesn't matter where you are currently, it's all about where you want to go.
Absolutely. That's really, really good. And Representative Garvin, I'm going to, make sure that we're good. I see a little line up there, so I want to make sure that we're good. So if you guys are watching, it does say low network connection, but it is recording. So that's good. I want to make sure. So Facebook family, if you see me getting up and moving around, I just want to make sure you're getting this good information. And guys, if you are catching it and you want to kind of chime in with questions and different things, we'll be happy to answer those after the interview. Just post them on the Facebook Live, and we'll make sure that we answer. Kambrell is on Facebook, so if there are specific questions that you want to direct to Representative Garvin,
Kambrell's fine.
Thank you. You may, do that on the where you can type in the comments. So be sure to do that as well. So Representative Garvin, you talked very eloquently about like your background, and I love the fact that you said it doesn't matter where your zip code is.
Yeah.
That does not determine your future. That's right. And especially for parents who may be watching, even students who may be watching, trying to figure out what direction they're going in. I work at a college, so we're often dealing with students who are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
They're in school, they're trying to do the best that they can do, and they're trying to, progress their lives. And many of them come from challenging zip codes. And the fact that you shared that, it's really a determining factor of what you want out of life, not necessarily allowing your circumstances to determine that. So I'm definitely glad that you shared that. One of the things that I also wanted to ask you is, where do you serve specifically in South Carolina? Talk a little bit about House District 77.
Sure.
So for viewers who are just not familiar with like what that is, where that is, and like how do you best serve citizens in that district?
Absolutely, great question. So House District 77 in land mass is huge. So my district is out in northeast Columbia, and Blythewood. And so for anybody that has any idea about what's happening here in the Midlands, you'll know that the Blythewood community is really growing exponentially.
It is.
Just drive down Killian Road if you haven't been out there in 4 or 5 years, and you won't recognize it.
Right.
And so the district is really growing. We have an older portion of our district that's closer to the I-20 line, communities like Meadow Lake and Lincolnshire and Fairlawn, those established communities, those folks that have really been the background of our district for a long time. And then we have the Blythewood suburbs that have a lot of folks that have come from everywhere that are moving into the community, that have young families and that sort of thing. So I have a really, I think, diverse district. I have some folks that are doing really well financially, and then have some folks that that aren't doing so well. And so I recognize, given that we do have some great disparities in income in our district, that I realize that there's work to be done, and I realize that the folks sent me here to do a job. Let me give you an example. One of my communities, Blue Ridge Terrace, is a community, and I was out campaigning, and I was talking to a lady, and she's been living in that community now for she's about 70 years old. Oh, wow. She's been living in that community for 60 years. She said, Mr. Garvin, we have less today than we did 60 years ago when my family moved into this community. Wow. I said, well, what do you mean by that? She said, well, 60 years ago, there was a grocery store that we could easily get to. She said, now all we have is a Dollar General. So in certain portions of my district, we find ourselves having a food desert. And so ensuring that we have access to healthy foods for our citizens is really important to me, and something that I look forward to working with both folks in the public and the private sector towards ensuring. Allow me to say this as well. Columbia International University, CIU, which is on Monticello Road, I just want to shout them out because President Smith and the entire university, they're doing a really good job of trying to transform that Monticello Road corridor with multi-million-dollar investments of knocking down properties that really had a lot of crime happening and that just really needed to go. In addition to their work, the community is also invested in what's happening because folks realize that it's time for a change.
Absolutely.
in what we do.
Well, that's awesome. That's really a great explanation of actually how you help and how you serve in those areas. I definitely appreciate the story of the woman that had been in the community, 60 years or so, and it tells you about the different dynamics of sometimes how even when we're growing different areas, in those plans, certain things are often left off. For example, she said there was a grocery store, and now there's a Dollar General, and for some it looks like progression, but for her it seemed to be regression.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you listened and heard about that and are looking into measures to assist that area is really phenomenal because the Blythewood area is growing hugely, and also you still don't want to miss out on the different things that matter to people who still live there and have lived there for quite some time.
Absolutely.
So all about being in this place as a representative is serving.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't understand that. So talk about whether you're a House representative, you're working here at the State House, how does serving play a big part or a role in what you do? Absolutely.
And I think that's such a great point. A lot of folks see title, they see position, and they see status when they look at this role. But at the end of the day, it's about people. I didn't come here to, enhance my bio. I came here to fight for those communities that needed a strong voice here at the State House. And so through my legislation, through my actions, I hope folks also recognize that, that's why I'm here. And that's what I hope to be able to do. Things like have a bill that would increase our minimum wage in South Carolina.
Awesome.
Our current national minimum wage is $7.25. And hasn't been an increase in over 10 years.
Wow.
And so there are 29 other states that have a higher minimum wage than our national average. My bill would raise our state minimum wage to $10.10. And do I think $10.10 is enough to raise a family off of? I don't. But I think that we've got to start somewhere. And we have to recognize that we also are in a very conservative state. And being in a conservative state, progress is going to come a little bit slower. But we've got to have folks here at the State House that aren't afraid to push and to fight and to challenge the status quo. I saw Governor McMaster for the past 2 days. He came to one of our caucus meetings, and I went to the governor's mansion on yesterday. When I saw him on Tuesday, the governor, I mentioned to the governor about a bill that I've sponsored that would give the voters of South Carolina an opportunity to say whether or not they want to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. For your viewers that are listening, here in South Carolina has refused to expand Medicaid under Obamacare, quite frankly, for political reasons. South Carolina is leaving millions upon billions of dollars on the table each and every year, money that could benefit our citizens that other states who have chosen to expand Medicaid are reaping the benefits from. So there's economically, financially, there's no reason that we shouldn't do it other than for political reasons. Had it been called Trump Care and not Obamacare, I have no doubt that we would have long ago expanded Medicaid in South Carolina. So what my bill does is my bill would say, let's ask the voters of South Carolina what they think.
Very good.
Because if you're a conservative member here at the State House and your community overwhelmingly says, I want access to health care, then how do you think those folks are going to vote? They're going to support health care.
Absolutely.
And so my challenge, so the governor asked the governor, said, Governor McMaster, you know, several conservative states have sponsored similar legislation. Can we do that in South Carolina? Can you support my bill? And the governor, of course, said, well, I haven't read it. So I saw him again the very next day. I said, Mr. Governor, here's my bill. Let me know what you think, and I'll come by and see it. So once I leave here today, I'm going to go by and see the governor and say, Mr. Governor, what do you think about my bill?
Absolutely.
And that's what we need. We need folks that are here that aren't afraid to fight the good fight. And I'm an alpha, and one of our founders, Vernon Woodson Tandy, said that we've got to fight until hell freezes over. And when hell freezes over, we then have to fight on the ice.
Yep.
So I'm fighting on the ice.
Just like an ice cold brother.
Just like ice cold brother, absolutely.
That is amazing. And for those, again, that are watching, I hope you are tuning into, you know, the verbiage that's being used here. Like, you matter.
Yeah.
So your votes matter. And that's pretty much the essence of this particular live recording, is that your vote matters. Like, don't think that, you know, you're wasting your time and different things of that nature. Kambrell has shared that there are bills that are on the table and conversations that are going on to better benefit you as the American people, and specifically those here in South Carolina. So definitely make sure, you know, we have a lot of different elections coming up.
Right.
And I'm going to definitely ask you, you know, about that. You know, several people have already, you know, put in their bid for candidacy. They're running. They've gotten their campaigns up and going, and certainly you're hearing it virally, and then you're tuning into some of their interviews on CNN or whatever news stations, you know, that they're on. But tell us a little bit, and tell the audience, what do you believe, like, the important part of this election? Like, why is it important to really focus on this 2020 election?
Great question. So I decided to run for office. When I ran, I always knew I wanted to run for office, but I never planned to run for office in 2018 because a couple of different things. So I taught for 3 years down in Colleton County. Now, I'm going to get to the question. I taught in Colleton County for 3 years, came back home, and enrolled at USC for law school.
Okay.
So I was a second-year law student when I decided to run for office. I ran for office when I did after the historic 2016 election.
Right.
When we all thought that we were going to have a President Hillary Clinton on that Wednesday morning.
Right.
And ended up with a President-elect Donald J. Trump. And so President Obama put it best. He said to all the young folks that are listening, you know, I know that you are discouraged, but if you aren't happy with what you see happening in your communities, don't just complain about it. Grab a clipboard, get some signatures, and run for office yourself. So I took President Obama up on his offer. I looked around my community. I wasn't happy with what I saw taking place, and I decided, if not me, then who? If not now, then when?
Very good.
And I took on, nobody thought we could win, but I took on a long-time incumbent, and the voters, and our message really resonated with the voters. And we got out there and we knocked on 4,000 or 5,000 doors and talked to a whole lot of people and kissed a lot of babies, and it paid off at the end. So I encourage anybody that's listening to this message today, if you feel like now is your time, don't be afraid to get out there and run. And don't be afraid to be the change that you want to see.
Absolutely.
Now, to your question about our national election, we have a tendency to vote only during presidential elections.
Correct.
But I also want to encourage your viewership that we've got to vote during midterm elections. We've got to vote for these city council
Absolutely.
and these county council and these state government races as well, because these are the people that have the most direct impact on your life. I was looking at my social media feed, and a lot of my friends were talking about how their tax refunds, for those that get tax refunds still, were significantly less than they were in previous years as a result of the Republican-controlled congressional tax bill that they pushed down our throats in Washington. So that shows you that elections have consequences. We have Brett Kavanaugh, we have Gorsuch, all on the Supreme Court. That shows you that elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
We could have had Merrick Garland. We have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's 85 years old and who is holding on until the next election, I think, to give a Democratic president an opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice. And I think, and so that tells us that we've got to take these matters seriously.
Absolutely.
We've got to vote like our life depends on it.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think America, and nor do I think the world, can afford 4 more years of this, travesty that we have, in the White House now.
I totally agree. It's already been such a tragic event for even these current 4 years.
Sure.
And so it is imperative that you guys who are watching, that you understand again, just like the title of this live, your vote matters.
That's right.
I mean, big time. And I want to reiterate what Kambrell says about voting locally. That is really, really important. And just like Kambrell, I grew up in a very politically aware environment. My grandmother was an active member of her local NAACP chapter. So she brought me in early, understanding the importance of knowing our rights, understanding the importance of voting. At the age, I think I probably was a teen when I first started working the voting polls. So that was something that I did for probably well over 6 years. Every time there was an election, whether it was a local election, midterm election, presidential election, I was always found working the polls, is what we call them. And being in that environment also helped me to become a little bit more conscientious of voter awareness.
Sure.
Oftentimes you find, because you're assisting voters, that individuals are not always sure where they should go to vote. Some people are not even aware of their inability to vote for whatever reasons. It's very important to get involved. Like, don't wait. That phrase is just so very powerful. Like, if not now, when?
That's right.
If not you, then who?
That's right.
It's imperative to definitely get involved.
That's right.
Of course, Kambrell, this live and the live series that I've been doing for the month of February are geared towards Black History Month. And of course, it's no secret, I definitely wanted to interview you because you are a young African American male, and you're sitting in a seat with the House of Representatives. And I want you to share with our audience, like, if you don't mind, your age, and you talked a little bit about like what empowered you to do this, but talk to those who are your age, who are trying to really figure out their own voices, how they matter, and the importance of their vote.
Absolutely. Great question, Dr. D. So, I'm 27. I got elected. I won my primary when I was 26. And, and so I'm the second youngest member of the 170-member General Assembly, which includes the House and the Senate. And so the 1990 babies are coming. And we're coming. And so I share that to simply say, don't ever let age or the fear that you're too young hold you back from going after whatever goal or whatever goal that you want to achieve. Folks will always, of course, you're going to have to always work a little bit harder to establish that you know what you're talking about and what you're doing. But never, I encourage your viewers, anybody else listening to just, never let age hold you back, or gender, or any of those, factors hold you back. And if you want to do something, go out there and do it.
That's really, really good. And even to... and we're speaking because he's young, and I thought that this was just so phenomenal of of what he's doing. But even if you're older, and there's something you feel like you want to get involved in politically, do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's just no age, parameters. The only limits you can place are the ones you place on yourself.
That's right. I was talking to a friend, and she's probably in her mid-40s or 50s, and she's talking about going to law school. I say, do it.
Do it.
There's nothing that's stopping you from being able to do that. And I also think, Dr. D, I share this story often. My mom, it changed the trajectory of her career when I was 5 years old, and she became a speech therapist. Because at the age of 5, I was diagnosed with a speech impediment.
Okay.
And so she's still a speech therapist today.
Okay.
And so at an early age, I realized the power of my voice.
That is awesome.